Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I'm going to bring this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Everyone's here. Okay, notice to the public, any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district but not on the agenda may do so during the public comment period identified in this agenda. By law, subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. The board president will recognize you for public comment on matters on the agenda at the appropriate time. I see no correspondence, no consent. Any public? No public comments. No guests and presentations, and director's report.
Okay, we had a second design team come January 29th to look at the library, and they prepared a proposal for us with the same things that the other people did that we talked about last time. I'll present it to the board once we get our final estimates from the architect. He's prepared an estimate for an addition to the building, adding on to the children's department, and he's working on another one, an estimate to remodel the Miller building. So hopefully within the next month or two, we'll have all those figures and we can talk about how to proceed with those things. The Student Success Initiative, Luke and I were talking about this earlier. He's requested that we discuss the best ways to get library cards into the hands of students at our next meeting. And Jim is going to the big mandatory meeting in Walnut Creek to discuss the Student Success Initiative and how other libraries have done that. So next meeting, we should be able to have a good discussion on that as well. I made a presentation to the Rotary Club yesterday at a luncheon, asking them for funding to support an adult literacy program here in Dixon. And it seemed to go well, and they're going to decide at next month's meeting whether to fund that or not. The audit is currently in process with Gilbert Associates. We've had 2 visits from them, and they're coming out again next week. Their estimate is that their report should be ready by the March or the April meeting. So that's coming along much quicker than the last auditor did. On Saturday, Jim and I went to the Performers Showcase in Fremont, and that was really fun. It's an annual event where they have 32 different children's performers from all over Northern California come, and they perform for different librarians and teachers, and then people decide who they want to hire for their programs. And we've already filled and confirmed the whole summer reading club schedule. So we booked Dan and James Chan. They're a father, son, and dog magic show. They were really cute.
With
This
a dog?
guy- Huh?
With a dog, huh?
With the dog.
Can't go wrong with a dog.
No.
Well, this went a little wrong with the dog.
Oh, no.
The boy was trying to get the dog to do tricks. The dog refused, and Dad had to step in. But
As long as it
As
doesn't
long as
bite
they didn't like
anyone.
saw him in half, you know, and
right. Yeah, that would go really wrong with the dog.
No rabies shots.
No, yeah, no rabies shots required.
But he's like 8 or so. So the kids, I think, will really enjoy him doing
Oh, yeah, that'd
magic.
be fun,
So,
yeah.
A guy named Ashiba. He's a singer from Trinidad who was really high energy and lots of fun. He had like dreadlocks all the way down to his bottom and would swing them around, and he was quite entertaining.
Oh, that sounds great.
Bree Crabtree, she was here last year. She's a juggler, and she juggled on a unicycle and did stuff. But one of the parents specifically requested that we try and get her again. They liked her so much, and she was there, so I booked her too. A guy named Eric Rubin, who does sing-alongs for kids in English and Spanish, and also Yiddish, but I don't think we need that quite as much, but he's going to do the English and Spanish. Python Ron's reptile show. He had all kinds of reptiles, anacondas and pythons and some animals I'd never even seen before, so.
So how do we advertise these events? Because I mean, we're talking like juggling, unicycle, and magic dogs.
Yeah,
Seems like, I mean, it seems like it would be kind of, I don't know, fun for a lot of people to go to. I mean, where do we advertise it?
last year we advertised on flyers in the library, on our Facebook page, on the library webpage, and in the newspaper.
And what turnout do you get usually for these?
Last year was the best turnout we've ever had. The smallest one, I think, was 75, and the biggest was 150.
Okay, so you get a lot of people, okay.
We get a lot. If we got much more, I don't think we'd be able to have that many people there,
Yeah.
since it's all outdoors on that little concrete slab that we have.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Did
And
we,
and last year we had to have one of the events indoors, and it was too crowded, but we didn't know what else to do. It was like 105. It was an animal act, and the guy didn't want to do it outside.
Did we ever look in, I thought that this came up as a discussion, maybe we need to have it further about the city possibly expanding that concrete slab?
Yeah, we looked into it last year, and I thought it seemed like a good idea. The city okayed the expansion of it, but then with the possibility of us adding a program room, I thought that we should put it off until we make a decision on that.
Okay.
I figured we could go one more year without doing that. If
Yeah.
the program room doesn't happen, then yeah, I think we should totally redo that
Okay.
patio.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. Let's see, Dre Illusion, she was a singing act, and she did like amazing animal noises. I mean, she'd do the Farmer in the Dell and the Old MacDonald and the standard kids things, but when she did like cows and pigs, it was like amazing. She just has a really good talent for sounding like animals. I know the kids will like her. And the last one was my favorite, Coventry and Calusa. They were a juggling and comedy and magic act, but her finale was that she was able to do 50 hula hoops at a time.
wow, that's impressive.
And they were like really entertaining, just high energy, running all over the place. And I know they'll be a big hit.
Oh, great.
So, oh, and we also booked the final magician for the finale. So that's everybody. So the whole summer reading club's programs are set already. And that's all I've got as far as the library activities.
And I wanted to circle back on the literacy, adult literacy. Do we have like statistics on adult literacy in Dixon? Do we know what that is like or not like, or?
Well, I wasn't able to find anything specifically on literacy, but one statistic from the Census Bureau was that 22% of the city has a high school education or less.
Mm-hmm.
And of that, I believe it was 13 were below ninth grade level. So I think we can infer that it's a pretty significant number of people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That compares with 12.5% for the county and 18% for the state, as far as high school education or lower.
Okay.
Okay, no ongoing business, but new business.
Yes, the request for increase in capitalization threshold for fixed assets. This was something that was discussed with the auditor. When this policy was established in 2006, we set the limit as being pretty much anything that was had an original cost of $500 has to show up in a fixed asset or inventory list. And she said that the average now is more around $5,000, which would make it much easier to account for all the materials. And the fixed asset list that we have is still from 2004. So most of the stuff on there are things that we don't even have at this point. So she said that $5,000 was much more normal, and that would be the same amount that was approved by the board in 2014 as the limit for computer hardware and software. So it would just be a consistent number all the way across the board, that we would just have to account for anything that had an original cost of $5,000 or more.
So if we had a computer that was less than 5,000, we wouldn't be accounting that as a fixed asset?
Yeah, it doesn't count as a fixed asset at that point. So like the iPads and that kind of thing that show up in between those numbers, we wouldn't have to account for those in a fixed asset list. We could do it in an inventory if we need to, though.
I was just gonna say, you know, I've done some computer shopping lately and, with a college kid and then also another home $5,000 is a really expensive computer. And that would make me concerned that the computers wouldn't be considered that, because now with technology, you can get a computer for a lot cheaper than $5,000. That's a really good computer.
So would those fixed asset items not have an ID tag on them then if they were under $5,000?
Well, I
How would
went,
we
through- I
track
was
them?
doing an inventory of the building and I've got everything tagged that was over $5,000, but with this, I wouldn't have to actually give it to the auditor or Solano County, but
So it would still be listed in the library's,
we'd have an
list of
in-house
items.
list, but it wouldn't have to be declared to the auditor.
Okay.
So, again, I'm gonna say this, so it would still be on our inventory list?
Yeah, at this point, I've got an inventory list going. And as far as the computers, we already established 5,000 as the amount in 2014.
So then those aren't considered fixed assets because they're below 5,000?
Right. Yeah, they're not considered to be fixed assets. So only the big stuff, like our servers and some of the routers and that stuff in the basement, the bigger
Okay.
things are considered to
Okay.
be fixed assets.
Okay.
but you said currently it's at 500, right? We're talking about changing it to 5,000.
It's 500 for everything except for computer
Okay.
products.
So when you do the internal auditing or the internal list for items, how do you keep track of things like the iPads? Is it based on the model number that's on the actual iPad, or how do you keep track of that then if we don't have a fixed
We
tags?
have tags.
Oh, they
that go
are
on
all
there.
tagged.
Yeah,
Okay,
And then recorded someplace?
yeah.
Okay.
okay. So we're really just talking about what the auditor has to look at, not the library's still keeping track of everything.
Yeah, it's just the big dollar items. I mean, things like last year we had the air conditioning unit replaced and that was like 12,600, I think. But anything that had an original price over 5,000 would have to show up on that list for them.
And like you said, the auditor said 5,000 is more the industry standard at this point.
Yeah, she said that's much more normal. She says she hasn't seen anyone that has one as low as 500 at this point.
So it's an action item.
Well, shall we split the difference and say something like 3,000? Would that still leave most of their computers off that list? Wouldn't that be correct?
Yeah, most of the public and staff computers wouldn't be nearly that much. But the computers are already not on the list because of the 2014 action.
Yeah, so we're talking more about iPads and
Furniture.
other smaller items, furniture.
Yeah, not iPads. iPads, I think, would be included in the computer list.
Oh, okay. So they would already not be on the list because they don't, as
Yeah,
expensive as iPads can get, they're not $5,000.
yeah, it's more things like furniture and the air conditioning units. There aren't really that many things that we have that are that expensive.
So anything currently on the list is going to get dropped off if it's not worth more than $5,000. Do you know how many items we're talking about?
Yeah, there aren't that many. Like the security gates, the self-check machine were part of it. There's only a handful of things. And then it seems odd to me, but like all the properties show up on this list as fixed assets too. So like the Pereira property shows up on the list and the, I think it's called the Cacique property is also on the list, that kind of thing.
So, but currently though, shouldn't there be more on the list if it was the old, the amount was 500? Because there's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a lot in the that's more than 500 though, yeah?
A fair amount, yeah, all the major furniture purchases are, and even like some of the chairs, not just the tables, that kind of
Okay.
stuff. But we ran into a problem with the last audit in that the list that we had was so out of date that, a lot of the stuff just wasn't able to be accounted for, whether it was destroyed in e-waste or whatever happened to it, we're not really sure with a lot of the things.
So the internal list of furniture that might be under this $5,000 limit, if we were to increase it, would that be something you would also keep on the internal list with the other, like, iPads and items that are not listed with the auditor?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's my only concern, is that we have everything listed somewhere to identify it.
yeah, we should have everything that we actually own that was over $500 accounted for.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion
To do what?
to increase, for purposes of the auditor reports, the limit to $5,000.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One thing I would ask too is that, just for information only, it'd be nice to maybe see what our internal inventory list looks like.
Okay,
Just for our own knowledge, just to see that.
all right,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
Okay, next item, approval of the minutes, January 11th.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's it.
We have the budget here, were we gonna go over the budget, or is that just?
Oh, yeah, sure, we can go over it.
But can we? Because it's
It's
not
not
on the
listed.
agenda.
No.
It's not on the agenda.
Well, usually we talk about it during library activities, or we have in the past. Usually
Well,
it's
we're not
not.
approving it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, usually
okay.
it's not an agenda item.
Okay.
Usually it would show up under library activities, or if there was something
Director's
special,
report,
with
question?
the budget
anything?
report.
Do we approve
Okay.
the budgets here? I don't remember. If we approve the budget. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
once a year though, but
Okay,
not
okay.
quarterly or not
Okay,
P1,
okay.
yeah.
Is there a question?
No, there wasn't. I just
Oh.
was wondering if we were.
The only one thing I would note, it looks like our revenues are way ahead for the year. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think so. That's
I
what
mean,
Gina
it's
had
showing we're
said.
at 84% to the year, isn't that correct?
Yes.
We're at 853 already.
Yeah, why is that?
But I was going to say, but I think we have some significant costs that will be coming up with the design team and.
No, I know that, but what I'm saying is that our revenue looks like it's gonna exceed what our budgeted amount is, cause we're, what, 50% through the year? Maybe less?
53%.
53, and look what our costs are. Our
Oh,
costs are-
58, sorry.
Yeah, we're 58, but our costs are right about 50%, but our revenues are up. Would that be accurate?
I believe so, yeah.
It would be good to get a report on that next time, how's that?
Okay, that
Just to
sounds
make
good.
sure that we're not reading this incorrectly.
But doesn't this indicate that the annual budget, we're gonna be at, if things continue, in the red at the end of the year?
Well, our budget was that we were going to be in the red for 240,000. That's what our budget says. Because our budget, our annual budget was 1.24, our annual revenue budget was just over 1 million. But based on this, if we're at 84% already at 853, we're way ahead.
But it shows expenditures of 1.247.
That's the budget side.
Right.
We've only spent 612 at this point.
But, so we're not anticipating actually spending the budgeted amount?
I'm saying we are, I'm sure, but going to spend the 1.2. But what I'm saying is, right now, it looks like, what I'm guessing is that we're gonna be way ahead, or we've got money forward. One of the two. You see what I'm saying, Luke?
Yeah, I do. I'm just concerned with the 229 there, and
I understand.
that's all I,
We approved
no, I
it.
see what you're saying.
We
I do.
approved it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we have cash in the bank.
Yeah,
And
we
we had other
do.
things to do, as I remember.
Okay.
Okay,
But
anybody
I
else?
think it would be good for us to go through it. It's mid-year anyways.
Okay.
So if you could schedule that appropriately, that would be.
Presentation for next time.
Yep.
Yeah, I
It's an
know we
agenda
had that
item.
one other time.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that would be good.
We had
Okay.
somebody come through and like you did before, she was here. It was great.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd appreciate that. Okay?
Okay, any other questions?
No?
Nope. All right, meeting adjourned.
Key.